have to have a diagnosis for the rest of their life, and that health actually comes from a bottle of pills or taking an organ out of your body. That's what actually people believe, as I go around. And so that's what health is, and that's what the culture teaches. And so this right here gives me an opportunity to share the truth about health and healing and where it comes from, your God-given potential from the inside out. Now, you don't need, that health doesn't come from the outside, it comes from the inside out, and what ways and steps that you can implement right now so you don't have to suffer like most people in America are suffering. And so in this right here, this Hormone Reboot talk is going to be huge because people really, they hear about hormones, and then, you get advertised about hormones, of how you got to take this, how do you take that. You hear about all these things, especially if you're hit menopause. You hear about that all the time. And so I'm going to teach you how to, yes, you can't stop menopause, but the effects of it, you can prevent it and lessen them, so you can live the life that you were created to live. And so, as you can see, you can come in. We have a mission here in Life by Design Chiropractic, and it's literally to see people heal. That's why every time you get adjusted, I shout healing. Because I have to speak it to you first before you actually believe it. Because out there, they just give you diagnoses, they tell you how bad you are, how terrible you are. And here, my hope is that you receive healing, that you receive a positive impact, and say that you're healed. When you walk out of here, you should already know that I'm in a better state, in a better place than when you walked in. And that's my mission I don't see no sickness and disease here in Lake Charles. Many people may see a lot of obesity, many people may see a lot of sickness, but I don't see that. Because I believe in the potential that's in every single one of you. And so, but when we talk about hormones, I am going to be talking about these 4 things right here. When we look at estrogen, testosterone, we got some more people. Can everybody see back here?
Yes, good.
Okay. These are big. When we look at all these 4 hormones, these are the 4 hormones that most people here in the U.S. struggle with. As you see, estrogen, testosterone, adrenal hormones, and thyroid. Somewhere along your life, if you haven't, or you still haven't, get ready, or if you already had, you probably struggled with one of these hormones, as you can see. I'm going to start off with, you see this number 1 and number 2, estrogen and testosterone. In a healthy person, those 2 take care of themselves. These is what we struggle with continuously. But in a healthy person, estrogen and testosterone, those take care of themselves. If you struggle with estrogen or testosterone, then there's something going bad in your health. There's something going on with your health. Because we don't supposed to be struggling with those. There's some irregularity going on inside our body, chemistry. And so with estrogen, who's ever heard of estrogen? Anybody? Yep. Estrogen is a sex hormone. It's an adrenal hormone, just like testosterone. It's in men and women, both. It's just men have a small amount of estrogen. Estrogen is what creates the difference between a man and a woman. And so how women have small voice boxes, has smaller vocal cords, has narrow shoulders, wider pelvis, they have shorter bones. That estrogen has everything to do with that. Because estrogen, we all have a certain amount of estrogen. Women has a lot of estrogen, because it deals with reproduction. It deals with, of course, making your stature, whatever your stature is. The biggest thing, estrogen affects your brain. It controls your body heat. Yes. And so if you get really cold, your hands get cold. If your feet get cold, you either have an estrogen or a thyroid problem. Is one of those. And so but estrogen controls body heat, is libido, It controls, let's say, in the liver, in the heart, cholesterol, the production of cholesterol in your liver. That's what estrogen has to deal with. What else? It also controls with, of course, your red blood cell production. Things like that is very, very, your skin. If you want thick skin, estrogen has a lot to do with that. And so it actually prevents you from getting too much acne in women, because of the oily substance it produces in your skin. Estrogen is unbelievable, the effects it has globally in your body, And so, like, when we think about estrogen, in around, let's say, in men, let's talk about men. There's only one man in the room, well, two men in the room. But in men, you have small amounts of estrogen, but it's very, very important. Why is that? Because it is essential in red cell reproduction. You need red cells. Anybody needs blood? Mm-hmm. Yes. That's how men get, estrogen is used for red blood cell production. And so, same thing with women. And so, and in women, as you age, estrogen declines, especially around premenopausal, right? And so estrogen declines, but now, years ago, they thought that because estrogen declines, listen to this, if estrogen declines, what does that mean? Then that means that my lack of hormones is due to a decrease in estrogen in my blood, right? That's what they thought years ago. But what they that's how hormone replacement therapy was born, was because of that. And so, but what they found in 2002 and 2003 is that hormone replacement therapy actually, the U.S. government warned that hormone replacement therapy actually increases your chances of stroke, of blood clots, breast cancer, and so forth. And so those are the big risks. And so was hormone replacement, you know what hormone replacement therapy is? It's just an artificial hormone that they put on you, fake hormone inside of you. You typically do that with people who have hysterectomies and stuff like that. And so, but what they found was that's what the risk was with women that was creating that. And so that's very, very important to understand but what they found in the last few years, it wasn't the lack of estrogen in the body. It was too much estrogen that caused a lot of hot flashes, that caused irritability, that caused you to a lack of focus, to be moody, and things like that. Too much estrogen. So that is called estrogen dominance. Estrogen dominance. And so I think, did everybody get one of these right here? This is this talks all about estrogen dominance, but just to understand, the history of, where we came from. And so, especially with estrogen, now we're learning more and more about estrogen dominance and how to combat that, especially in women. So the problem is, of many hormonal issues, is not too little estrogen. It's too much. Too much. I'm going to explain where those extra estrogens come from. Testosterone. Testosterone is mostly in males, but it's in males and women. Testosterone is what helps you make babies, basically, for guys. And so you need testosterone for muscle mass, for bone strength, things like that, and for cell reproduction. For red blood cell reproduction. You need testosterone. But the problem is, what we're finding now in males, in men, your husbands, your boyfriends, whatever it is what we're finding is that now there was an article in Forbes magazine. It was called "We're Not the We're Not the Father, We're Not the Man Our Father Was." That's what it was called in Forbes magazine. And what they were showing was they did a major study, and what they found was, like, in the 1920s, they measured these men from the 1920s to the 1980s. From 1920s to 1980s, so it's about 40, 60 years. And so what they found was that that testosterone in double digits decreased. It decreased in males. All of a sudden, It just decreased. And then they measured it from 1980 to the 2000s, and it did a massive drop. And then from 2000 till now, massive drop. And so what they found is that it wasn't the lack of testosterone. Like, our bodies didn't just do a mistake. God did not do a mistake in your body. You know, it's like males supposed to have testosterone, but what they found is that males were struggling with estrogen dominance as well as women. So they had an elevated estrogen. So in guys, if you have an elevated estrogen, guess what? Testosterone goes down. Those had to be balanced. Does that make sense? And so, and that causes males to get angry. It causes them to get angry. It causes them to lack of focus, to be isolated, and things like that. Does that remind you of somebody?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay then. But one second right here. So I don't want to miss. 1 second. Like that. There it goes. Testosterone is very, very important. And in females, yes, you have some. You need some. You need testosterone in your body to.
How do they get estrogen?
Ovaries. Oh, that's what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
We'll talk about that. And so it's very simple, but it's really something you don't hear about. And so yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. Adrenal hormones. Who's ever heard of cortisol? Cortisol is your stress hormone. When you're running from a bear, guess what? Cortisol goes up. You know, when you're in stress, you got to pay those bills. When you have to make money for your family, when you have to keep your job, things like that. That's cortisol going up. Our body is so intelligent. It's so intelligent because that's our natural stress response. That's a good thing. What cortisol does, if you've been to a stress talk before, cortisol actually increases blood glucose inside your body. So glucose is raised when you're stressed. Why? Why is that? Because glucose gives you energy so you can run. So you can go. It's called fight or flight. Does that make sense? What else does it do? Cortisol. It puts more blood into your muscles so you can run. So you can get away from danger. Also, cortisol, what else cortisol does is it decreases blood flow to your digestive system. Because you're not thinking about eating crawfish etouffee when you're running from a bear. You're just not. And so, so it decreases blood there. It decreases blood to the reproductive system. Because you're not thinking about getting funky when you're running from a bear. You're just not doing it. And so it takes blood from there. And it goes to your vital organs that produce, like to your heart and things like that. Your blood pressure goes up when you're stressed. Your blood pressure goes up when you're stressed. Your heart rate goes up. So cortisol does all these things. That's a hormone. That's your adrenal hormones. It comes from your adrenal glands. You know, and I have a personal a story with adrenal hormones because when I was in school, we did trimesters. We did 4 months. And then 2 weeks off, 4 months, 2 weeks off, went all year round. And within 4 months, we took over 150 tests. So it was a bunch of tests and quizzes, constantly. So I had to study, and I was just, it's like they wanted me to be more of a better test taker than a chiropractor, honestly. I just took tons of tests. And what did that do? Stressed me out constantly. So my cortisol levels was constant. And so what did it lead to? Adrenal fatigue. It shot my adrenals. So I got sick all the time and things like that. And so here in America, we go to bed stressed and we wake up stressed. And that leads to things like weight gain, leads to things like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, things like that, because cortisol is diabetes. Because you're in this constant, you're running from a bear for the rest of your life. If you continue to run from a bear for the rest of your life, that's not a way to live. Does that make sense? And so in this workshop, we're going to talk about strategies to help you decrease that stress level, to decrease that cortisol hormone. Thyroid. Thyroid is a big one. I'm seeing this often, again and again and again. The most common form of thyroid is hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's disease. And so hypothyroidism, your thyroid regulates your metabolism, regulates body heat. It controls, literally, your thyroid is so important, it affects every single thing in your body. If your thyroid is shutting down, it's affecting your whole body. And the reason it's shut down is because it's overstressed. You've overstressed your thyroid. And so, like with your thyroid, you'll get tired. If you have hypothyroidism, things like that. It causes a lack of focus and things like that. So thyroid hormone is very, very important. And so we have to understand, okay, we have this problem. Okay, what do I do to help it and to fix it? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so let me make sure and then these have tons of information that I've given you, but let me make sure I got has anybody heard of collagen? Mm-hmm. Estrogen has a major effect on collagen. Collagen is what keeps your skin tight, strong, and things like that. And so, let's go to the next. That's a good question about estrogen dominance, which we're going to talk about. These are signs of hormone imbalances: irritability, anxiety, depression, fatigue, insomnia, weight gain, migraines, low libido, digestive issues, hair loss. Raise your hand if you have any one of those. So that means you have some type of hormone imbalance. And so, like this, when I read that, it sounded like most Americans. It sounds like most Americans. When we think about, there's most people that are fatigued, insomnia, they can't sleep. They're overweight, they have migraines, they have digestive issues, and so forth. And so I'm going to explain why all those signs are very, very important to understand. But when we look at this, like when you know someone and you know yourself, there's something going on with your hormone imbalance. And so when we go into the next, the reason it's so important, there's potential problems when you never deal with your hormone imbalance. It leads to these things right here. Your cancer cysts. Who's ever heard of fibroids? Like cysts in your uterus. Things like gallbladder problems. If you ever had a fibroid, and if you have one right now, this workshop is for you. If you have a gallbladder problems, if you've taken out, or you still have one, this workshop is for you. Thyroid problems, this workshop is for you. Yeast overgrowth, osteoporosis, this is for you. To really understand really what hormones mean and how they can affect you. And what can you do to help that? Does that make sense? And the common solution that we have in America is this. I kind of already talked about this, but hormone replacement therapy. And so, like, that's the common solution. When you hit, a lot of people say, well, I had a hysterectomy. I can't produce estrogen, right? So there's several types of hysterectomies. But the most common hysterectomy does not take out your ovaries. So when you get a hysterectomy, I'm not sure who's had a hysterectomy. Okay, a couple of people. A hysterectomy, they typically take out your uterus and your cervix. They leave your ovaries there. Your ovaries is what produces estrogen and testosterone. Does that make sense? So you still have the ability to produce estrogen. It's just when you take organs out of your body, things begin to malfunction. Because how God designed it was you to have a uterus for the rest of your life, to have a cervix, to have ovaries, and things like that. So when you mess up with that system, things occur. Hormonal imbalances occur. And so what our culture has done, let's replace it with artificial hormones to combat the side effects things. But if you keep taking these side effects, of course, they've known is blood clots. Who's ever heard of that? Blood clots, heart disease, fatigue, and things like that causes are the big side effects for hormone replacement therapy. And so, of course, there's ways to really help you get off of those and help you create a better environment inside your body so your body can heal from the inside out and can produce and can enhance the hormones that you already have inside your body. Does that make sense? And so, causes of estrogen dominance. This is big. I hope you have a pen or pencil, something like that. This is very important because the cause of estrogen dominance, like I said before, men and women still have this problem, estrogen dominance. And so the biggest and the main concern is xenoestrogens. What in the world are xenoestrogens? Xenoestrogens come from your personal hair care products, personal care products, your lotions, your sunscreens, your perfumes, your makeup, things like that, the shampoos, the conditioners, also food, like your pesticides, herbicides, things like that, bad meats. Those are xenoestrogens or hormone mimickers. They mimic your natural producing estrogen. And so when you mimic something and you're already producing estrogen and you just pile more estrogen in there, guess what? You create a dominance of estrogen. And that causes an imbalance. And so that's huge just to understand. And so like how do you get better products? Like there's this resource called EWG. Has anybody heard of that? EWG, Environmental Working Group. You can get an app. It's a website, Environmental Working Group. Literally, it does it for you. Literally, you just get the app, put whatever product you want, and it'll tell you. It'll literally tell you if it's the best, if it has these xenoestrogens, or it doesn't. It makes it very simple. That's what I use. And literally, and so xenoestrogens are big. Plastic, like those Tupperwares that you place food in. Yeah, don't use those. Especially if you want to put it in the microwave. It melts those plastic into xenoestrogens into your food. And we eat that. And they mimic. You can get these hot flashes. Why do I have hot flashes? Well, I can tell you. You know? And so like xenoestrogens, so use glass to warm up things. You have like glass containers, that will help you when you warm up things or whatever it is, whatever you use to cook and stuff like that. Excessive body fat. When you have, there's this thing called aromatization. Aromatization, what that is that your body uses fat cells to turn testosterone into estrogen. That's how males get an estrogen dominance. Xenoestrogens, these are the two main causes in males and in women. Right here, xenoestrogens and excess body fat. When your fat cells, aromatization turns testosterone, women too, you have testosterone, turns testosterone into estrogen, and it just boom, elevates those things. Does that make sense? And so stress, just cortisol. Remember what I told you about before, cortisol? Cortisol is what increases your, because cortisol is in your blood, it also increases estrogen in your blood. So it increases what? Estrogen dominance inside, because you're stressed out all the time. And if you're stressed out, if you never learn how to regulate your stress or deal with the consequences of your stress, that's what it will lead to. Birth control. It's a big one. Birth control is huge because it leads to estrogen dominance because it stops those natural progesterone, those natural producing hormones that you have. It blocks them so you won't get pregnant. And so, and then people with PMS, premenstrual cycle, those things like that, they use birth control to reduce it. You know, which is they say that birth control has good benefits like. It increases bone strength and increases bone loss, but however, Yes, that may be true. However, but what is it causing? Estrogen dominance. So it's like you're sacrificing a short-term gain for a long-term loss. Does that make sense? Short-term gain over long-term loss. And what I do in this office is I never sacrifice a short-term gain for a long-term loss, because I want you healthy for the rest of your life, not for 4 months, not for a year, for the rest of your life. So you can live a quality of life, not in a nursing home, not in a hospice or in a hospital. I mean, you walk around a hospital and you think, oh, that's never going to be me. Well, you keep living like everybody else, you're headed that way. It's just a matter of time. And so when you're not pooping, the reason I put that up there, because that is the pathway that estrogen dominance gets secreted. The more you use the bathroom, the better you use the bathroom, the less estrogen gets out of your body. Such a good thing. And then I'm going to talk about the gut connection, especially with thyroid and with estrogen. Tap water. Tap water is full of fluoride, all these different chemicals. What I always recommend is getting a filter. Who's ever heard of Brita?
Yeah.
Get a Brita or a filter, a water filter in your tap, because we just have too many chemicals, and those are as xenoestrogens. So the more tap water we drink, the more estrogen dominant we have, and the more symptoms we have, and the more hormonal imbalance we have. Does that make sense? And so those are big, big causes of estrogen dominance in man and woman. And it's not estrogen is not just a guy problem, or testosterone. A lack of testosterone is not just a guy problem. It is a woman problem also, because of estrogen dominance. I'm just gonna read some stuff right here, because it's very, very important. When you have low testosterone, in women, you have less. You have about 70 nanograms per deciliter than males. But when you have low testosterone, these are the symptoms: sluggishness, muscle weakness, fatigue, disrupted sleep, decreased sex drive, decreased sexual satisfaction, weight gain, fertility issues, decreased bone density, irregular menstrual cycles. When you have low testosterone, in women, men don't get that, but in women you have irregular menstrual cycles. And so when you think about those, and when you think about somebody that is struggling with all those symptoms, that have low testosterone, and what do males do? They take T shots. A lot of people take testosterone shots, and if you think about somebody has, if you ever heard a guy take testosterone shots, it feels great in the beginning. But as you do it for years and years and years, I think it's crazy to think that you can take all these shots and for 3 years and never have a side effect. You will have some side effects. Same thing with hormone replacement therapy. You will have some side effects because you're putting something artificial that's not God-made. God didn't make that. It was artificial, and put it inside your body and try to replicate something. And so testosterone is not just a guy problem, it's a woman problem too. The causes of low testosterone. 2 biggest things of low testosterone. We already talked about it. Xenoestrogen and excessive fat. Because why is it? Aromatization, remember that? It turns fat cells into fat cells turn testosterone into estrogen, causes estrogen dominance. Does that make sense? And then xenoestrogens, where does it come from?
Lotion, perfume,
Makeup. Plastic, things like that. Plastic, xenoestrogens, things like that. And so, very, very important are the causes of, you can come in. Cause that could cause, these things, low testosterone can cause tumors inside your body, inside your brain stem also. It can cause tumors in your adrenal glands, things like that. Like testosterone is very, very important. And it's in males and females. So it counts for you too. And so next, right here, this is a big one. Fight or flight. Fight or flight is your natural physiological response to stress. I kind of already talked about that, but when you're stressed, what is the main hormone that raises? Cortisol. That's your natural, and is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's a good thing. Your body needs that. However, if we do this for a long period of time, long term, if you're stressed out forever, you never learn how to manage it, it will deplete your immune system. It will destroy your immune system, and now what your body can't fight for you. And now your body's actually fighting yourself. And what is that called? An autoimmune condition. And so, which is skyrocketing now. And so, fight or flight is very, very important because it comes from right here, your adrenal glands. Your adrenal glands is what secretes cortisol. Your adrenal glands. And so you have, this is very interesting because the adrenal glands, it is the only gland that does not have a direct synapse with the brain. It's the only gland. So your brain controls everything in your body. Can everybody agree? And in order for your brain to talk to anything, your nerves have to reach it. And it got to have a synapse, and it has to secrete neurotransmitters. Your adrenal glands doesn't have that. Why is that? That's how God designed it. Why is that? Is because if you're in danger, if something is going on, if you want to run away from something, milliseconds is the difference between life and death. You need to run. you need to go. You know, you got to get away from danger. And so that's why it doesn't have a direct synapse. It has an indirect synapse. And so that's why it's very important, because when this can get fatigued very, very quickly if you stay in this stressful state. Adrenal fatigue, it shuts down your adrenal glands. And let me give you a few examples. When this is how you know if you're in adrenal fatigue or not. You take a vacation. You're not really working hard. You're taking a break and things like that, and you get sick. That's adrenal fatigue. Another example is you can't handle stress. You just break down. Something happens in your life, you just break down. That's it. You're in adrenal fatigue. You just can't take it. And so because it shuts down your adrenal glands. Another example is, I think I kind of wrote it right over here. When you crave salty foods. Who's ever craved salty foods? You just want something salty.
Yeah.
When you want something salty, the reason is that there's adrenal corticoids that your adrenals produce, and they, that manufactures salt. It needs salt to manufacture your hormones. Does that make sense? And so that's why you crave salt. You want salt when you're in adrenal fatigue. And so it's very, very important just to understand where it comes from. As you see, look, I mean, that's probably at the end of the day for most of y'all. Right there, adrenal fatigue. But it's very important to understand, like, I'm going to give you a few tips to really help you deal with adrenal. I personally have dealt with adrenal fatigue. You know, it's just life gets in the way, and you just get tired. And then no matter what you do, you're still tired. And so, basically it looks like that. I already talked about that. And it's the truth. Especially if you're driving from Houston, huh? Low thyroid. As you see this right here, low thyroid, this is going to be big because a lot of people, I see more and more of this. Low thyroidism, hypothyroidism, most common, Hashimoto's. These are the symptoms that you typically see when people are depressed, thin hair, weight gain, things like that. Your gut has a huge relationship with your thyroid. Your gut is very, very important when you talk about hormones. It is very, very important. And so, as the next slide right here, your gut hormone connection. If you have a gut problem, you have a hormone problem. If you have a hormone problem, you have a gut problem. Does that make sense? And so if there's something going on with your digestive system, every time you eat, there's something going on with your hormones because it has a link with estrogen. What's it called? You have a genetic, you have about 100 trillion different types of hormones, but it's estrobolome. Estrobolome is a genetic component in your gut that deals directly with estrogen. And so when you have gut problems, that means you can't secrete the excess estrogen inside your body. You can't use the bathroom. And so you can't get it. So you live in this estrogen dominant. And then we're trying to think, why am I so tired? Why can I not focus? Why do I have fibroids? Why do I have irregular cycles? Why am I tired all the time? Because there's something going on with your gut connection with your estrogen. You have too much estrogen in your body. The problem is not low estrogen, it is a lot of estrogen. And so your gut connection to your thyroid is essential because you have about 100 trillion different bacteria in your gut that are vital, and it connects and it produces in order for, T4, T3, thyroxine, T3 is the most potent. So when people test you for thyroidism, hypothyroidism, they check T4, T3. And so you want T3 in your body. But when you have a bad gut, you decrease the amount of T3 that's in your body. Because they can't convert it from a T4 to T3. Does that make sense? And so that leads to what? Hypothyroidism. Hyperthyroidism. Even though there's more hypothyroidism, there's less hyperthyroidism. And so when we, I want to make sure I'm not missing anything right here, and the same thing with cortisol. I think I broke the record with cortisol, but I hope you understand how important it is to really decrease the amount of cortisol. So what's the solution? I told you all the bad news and what all these things happen, what can occur, what can you relate to your body that's functioning right now? What is the solution? So these 5 essentials, these 5 essentials are vital to understand in order to remove all interference within your body. Like your body does not need help healing. If you cut your finger, let it heal. We know that. We trust the body to do that. Our body does not need no help, just no interference. Does that make sense? It needs no help, just no interference. So there's many things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that interfere with your body's ability to heal. And so I'm going to break down these 5 things, and these are strategies that you can do at home to literally decrease your estrogen to help you balance your hormones. Does that make sense? And for some of y'all, you're already doing it. The first one is this. Here in the U.S., here in Lake Charles, here in Louisiana, we eat pretty bad, don't you think? Gumbo, crawfish etouffee, things like that. It's just the truth, just the truth, but when we look at this right here, what that leads to is estrogen dominance, low thyroidism, that leads to increased cortisol, and your adrenals get shot, and low testosterone. And so that's what it leads to. So if you want to really reboot your hormones, you have to reboot what? Your gut. You have to take care of your gut. If you take care of your gut, you'll take care of your hormones. That's easy, right? And so these are big things right here. You've got to eliminate stimulants, stress, subluxation is what most of my patients come. When you have a misalignment putting stress and pressure on the nerve, that is subluxation. And so you got to eliminate these right here. Stress, stimulants, subluxation, and add that in healthy diet and supplements, which I'm going to break down. Stimulants. Just don't throw nothing at me for the next slide. Coffee. 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 Out of all, I have a lot of mentors, health conscious mentors, and these guys treat their body as the temple of God. They treat their bodies like that. None of them drink coffee. None of them drink coffee. Why is that? Coffee, because it's caffeinated. Caffeine is a stimulant. It's a drug. That's what it is. It's a drug. So it's a drug. Listen, I'm a coffee drinker. I'm a coffee drinker. So I'm talking to myself. And so it's a stimulant. And so if you have a stimulant inside your body, you have caffeine inside your body, what does that do to your physiology? It increases the hormone cortisol. Because it is stressful to your body. And what does cortisol do again? It increases your blood sugar. That's one. And what it does, it decreases your immune system. Because remember, cortisol is raised when you're running from a bear. You don't need your immune system when you're running from a bear. It decreases blood flow to the digestive system. And so it puts more fat cells on you. You see this right here? These things right here that you have, those love handles, that's due to cortisol. That's due to cortisol. That's what does that due to?
I said a lot of it.
Because of cortisol, you have love handles. Just blame that. Just blame that right there. And then what increases cortisol? Stimulants. Like coffee. I mean, coffee goes straight into your adrenal glands. We just talked about your adrenal gland. So what's a good replacement for coffee? Tea. A herbal tea. Some type of tea is better. A decaf coffee. Straight to decaf. The Swiss method. You ever heard of the Swiss method of decaf? That's probably the best decaf you can get. That's pure.
It's a brand?
Yes.
Okay,
Swiss method. But yes, decaf. Get decaf coffee instead of...
Does that actually wake you up?
Okay, that's another thing. So the reason people drink coffee most of the time, first of all, is a habit, and to wake them up. And so, like, if you're struggling, like I have to do the same thing. If you're struggling with, like, waking up and go on a 15-minute walk.
No, I have something better. Really and truly, you can get online and you can find herbal teas that will wake you up and not stimulate you with caffeine.
Yes, yeah. A decaf tea is
You can
great.
just Google it
Yes.
and try them. And you know, if you like one herbal tea that has, there's lots of herbal teas out there that have energy properties. You can always mix and put two of them in, you know? I mean, you don't have to just drink one tea. You can try two different kinds.
Yes. And so tea is essential. I mean, like if you want to decrease this stimulants and cortisol, that's the biggest thing. Just drink more tea. Just replace it. Maybe you can have, let's say, 3 cups of coffee a week, and then the rest tea.
3 a day.
Not 3 a day. But the more you drink coffee, the more your adrenals shut down.
Oh, goodness.
because of caffeine. Just drink decaf.
Yeah, but it cuts your appetite.
But literally, if you just walk 15 minutes, it boosts your energy. If you walk 15 minutes, it boosts your energy. And if you drink tea, it boosts your energy. You know, and if you drink coffee, you gotta have some good fats in there. So you can put coconut oil in there. You know, some bone broth in there to literally give you more energy and things like that. So your brain, if you put coconut in there, literally a tablespoon of coconut, it has medium chain fatty acids, and literally it will turn on your brain like that. Coffee.
Yeah,
Yeah, in both.
Cream.
In both. In both. Like it's, but no, that's if you put a tablespoon of coconut oil in any type of coffee. Any. You know? But you want to reduce your stimulants. And the main stimulant that most Americans drink is what? Is coffee. And so, like, it increases estrogen and cortisol levels. That's what it does. It increases estrogen and cortisol levels. It's just a habit that you have to work yourself out of. And I'm a coffee drinker, just to let you know. Sugar. Some of y'all need to prep up for this one. Sugar it's an epidemic. I mean, sugar's in everything. Sugar. I mean, if it ends in ose, it's sugar. Sucrose, saccharose, lactose turns into sugar. Things like that. Dextrose, that's a major one. Dextrose, things like that. Sugar is an epidemic, and it is what? A stimulant. It increases, of course, sugar is the number one cause of diabetes. You already know that. Sugar feeds cancer and causes it. Because if they find cancer in your body, what do they do? What scan do? They do a PET scan. And what does that mean? They put a glucose molecule, which is what? Sugar, inside your blood. And then they scan you, lights up like a Christmas tree. So how do they find cancer? They put sugar inside your body. Sugar is so addictive that it has 10 times more receptors in the brain than heroin. That's how addictive it is. And so you want it. So that what do companies do? Oh, let's put it in everything. Because they're going to buy more of it. You know, oh wait, well I'm drinking Coke Zero. Coke Zero is actually worse than regular Coke because it has aspartame. Aspartame is a carcinogenic. Aspartame is fake sugar. So any type of Diet Coke, Diet Dr. Pepper, all those diet, that's all aspartame. It kills you faster than regular Coke.
Make you crave more sugar.
And it makes you crave more sugar, exactly. And so aspartame is a carcinogenic. You don't want that. So what can you replace? Zevia, you know those little Cokes, Zevia? Those little, it tastes just like Coke, honestly. I haven't had Coke in a long time. But Zevia is Z-E-V-I-A. If you're addicted to Cokes or soft drinks, get Zevia. Oh, right there. There it is. Zevia, that's what it looks like. That's
really good.
That's a good replacement. That's a good replacement. Another thing for sugar, stevia is good to, like, if you want to put that in your coffee, you can use that. It's just if you have a disease process. What I mean by disease process is high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, cancer, whatever it is, Alzheimer's, dementia, whatever it is, disease process, you got to cut this out. Like hormone imbalance. Oh my goodness, yes. Hormone, cold turkey.
Stop.
Oh, wow.
Like you just cut it out. If you want to reverse whatever you have, if you want to manage it for the rest of your life, then go for it. But if you truly want to reverse and allow your body to balance your hormones and to work naturally and not be on medication for the rest of your life, like you got to eliminate sugar for a short period of time. It's not for the rest of your life. It's just for a short period of time. I mean, literally six months. And then you can, literally after 6 months, test and see, and literally in a short time, you'll see diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, skyrocket down. I've seen it. I've seen thousands of times. And so it's possible, especially diabetes, is the most reversible disease on the planet, I believe. You just got to take away that, and that's it. And allow your body to heal. And so you just can't be so far gone that you're taking insulin shots. That's different. And so, it's very, very important with sugar, but I don't eat sugar, right? That's full of sugar right there. Even fruit. Fruit. Bananas. Fruit is full of fructose, which turns into glucose. And so, really the low glycemic index, low glycemic foods, that's really what you want, is like berries and grapefruit. Berries and grapefruit is low glycemic, and that's what you want to eat most of the time. It's okay that If you have disease process, those are the fruits that you want to lean to. But in moderation. In moderation. Even apples are high in sugar. Yep.
Is that a pineapple in that corner?
Yeah, it's pineapple.
Mango.
Yep.
And a mango.
That's a mango.
Yeah, but I want to say something. When you're looking at getting off of sugar, okay, because we live on it, it's essential in our diet because it's in everything. But you know, I still look to fruit, all fruits, because when you eat the fruit, when it's whole, you eat the peeling, you get the way the fruit is composed, that when you eat it, the sugar doesn't like shock your system and hit it so hard because you've got the complete composition of the fruit. You've got the
You have the bacteria that's
you've
around
got
it. Yeah,
everything.
you have
You've
a
got
lot.
all the nutrition, you've got the minerals, the vitamins, and so